Generation Zero's roadmap for this year had two things toward the end that really interested me. Now, one of those was the weapon augments, which have now been added, and if you want to hear my thoughts on that, check out my last video where I talk about them. The other thing that caught my attention was the skills revamp that I saw mentioned at the very end. Many people, including me, are not really fans of the current skill system. It was somewhat improved when they added the ability to respec your skills, but I still personally feel that the game would be better if you could just get all the skills available. I actually play with some people who use mods to get exactly that, and it doesn't break the game at all. Also, as the newest post from the developers acknowledges, the system is extremely outdated to the amount of updates since any of the skills themselves were changed in any way. For example, the skill tree overall is still mostly the same as it was as far back as the resistance update in 2021. Aside from the aforementioned respecking, it's basically the same as what it was before things like the Soviet machines were even added, or even base defenses were added. All that is to say, I'm glad they're revisiting this and revamping it to fit the rest of the game as it is now. The only question is, what can we expect from this update when it does happen? Well, it's been delayed to sometime next year. The reason they gave is that there are other aspects of the game they want to work on first so they could better fit everything together. My guess is that this means the update won't be particularly early in the year either. And based on this statement, it sounds to me like other updates will come first, and then the skill revamp will come in between those and the rest of the year. To be honest, I don't really mind this delay. The devs have clearly listened about the updates being buggy and rushed when they first come out, which is why the last few ones have taken much longer and they've come out much more polished. If delaying it makes it better, then I think they should delay it. So that brings me to the question then, what should the changes this brings be when it does come out? Now, to start, since it sounds like the update will come after other changes, it's hard to predict what those will be or how those will affect this update, so I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to say what I personally want from this update based on the current game as it is. So, for starters, as I mentioned, I want more or all of the skill tree to be accessible in one character. In particular, I want it to be more friendly to having multiple specializations to choose between in different circumstances. Next, I want skills that are directly related to things like base assaults and defenses. Examples of this for defenses would include our turrets doing more damage, structures costing less to repair, among other things like that. And for base assaults, I would want to see things like doing extra damage to the super annoying turrets, having the automatic doors open for us like they do for machines to make getting around the base easier, and making highlights above the power sources brighter, among other small changes like that. Another area I think would be an interesting thing for the skills to affect would be the new weapon augments. For example, there could be skills that partially or even completely mitigate the negative effects of certain augments, or maybe buff the positive effects. I personally would also like to see skills specifically tailored to rivals and reapers, such as giving them a higher chance to drop experimental weapons, or maybe even potentially have a really expensive skill that gives them the chance to drop experimental ammo. This next one could either be a specialization or just a regular skill, and that is not taking damage from your own explosives and shock ammo, because God, some of my friends could really use that. Vehicles would also be a great thing to integrate these skills with. This could include motor vehicles, bicycles, or even the new three-wheeled flak moped, I think that's how you pronounce it. This could include things like taking less damage from the environment or from machines shooting at them, or consuming less fuel, or maybe even making you harder to knock off them, or things kind of like that. And my last suggestion would probably be a skill that increases how much ammo you craft at once, because if you don't know, the amount of ammo that the same amount of uranium used to make was a lot more in the past. I think that it would be nice to have some kind of skill that increases the amount you craft for the same amount of uranium, because frankly, the current amounts you craft are too low and have just led me to essentially never use experimental ammo because it's rarely a net gain to use it. And there's plenty of other possible ideas too. These are just a few that I threw together really quickly, especially since the devs are going to add even more stuff before this new revamp comes out. I'm sure there's going to be tons of potential for new and interesting ways that these skills could be updated to make more possible builds. And I look forward to seeing next year what they do with this. If you have any other ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear some more. Again, these are just ones I threw together really fast. Otherwise, just do all the typical YouTube stuff. If you want to see more videos like this, I definitely want to keep making Generation Zero, and I'm probably going to also branch out and do a few other games that I'm interested in, especially some VR games. But otherwise, just thanks for watching, and I'll see you next year. I'm looking forward to 2024. This year's been great for me. I've really enjoyed 2023 because after making videos on this channel for more than 7 years, I am finally seeing some results, which is kind of nice. So thank you to everyone who's watched. It's been mostly Generation Zero people. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and listening to me talk about this game this year. And I look forward to doing more of that next year. So see you in the next video.